Perfect. Then we continue as we did last time and open in Swedish. Who would like to begin? No one? Okay, thank you. Hey, Peter. Hey, so what's your feeling now when you're entering the knockout stages of the tournament? Anything that's on your mind? Are you thinking about how close it might be to the end? No, I know I don't think about that at all. It's really the same feeling that I have now as I've had before any of these quarterfinals. There is a, you know, you don't know what's going to happen afterwards, and the only thing you can do or influence is the match at hand. How you're going to feel, I feel after the match, you don't know. You know what's happened is that we have been fortunate to go through to the quarterfinals in the past few tournament. But it's if you were to be knocked out, there is always a certain emptiness, and winning the last match is always so cool. That's why we still these bronze matches, even emotionally, are a lot more fun, than getting a silver because you've just lost the most recent match you played. So you're very much focused on the game before you. Yeah, so just a follow-up question to that. You always talk about how you are only looking forward to the next match. How easy or difficult is it as a group to stay in that bubble and not to, look forward in your mind? How it's a challenge? I don't think that is much of a challenge, to be honest. Most people think about the match before you. We're very focused on this, and everyone has, both from their clubs and the national side, they've experienced their experience of playing these kind of matches. You know, somewhere you respect your opponent, you think you're gonna win, and then you never know what's gonna happen. Football is unpredictable, so you cannot, come up with something beforehand concerning how you're going to feel. I think we're all in that situation. There is a belief that we can win this match, but we also know that we might lose, particularly, against this kind of opposition. Nothing is, obvious when it comes to the outcome. Peter, first of all, the classic question: are all players available to play tomorrow? Yes, you saw the first 15 minutes, and everyone was on the pitch training. So that's my answer. Thank you. And the question number two, then, you have been through a few penalty shootouts in your during your era. Some of them good, some of them less so. Is there anything that you have learned from going through these kind of penalty shootouts? Is there anything you've changed in your plan or your strategy around it that you can implement in case there is a penalty shootout tomorrow? No, well, of course, the match is of that nature. It might be 120 minutes, and that's something that you have to think about when you balance your team. And then, of course, penalties might be the end outcome. I think the first time we did that against Canada in the last 16 in the World Cup 19. So somewhere it's a personal responsibility. The players who want to practice penalties can do so. We haven't kind of organized a specific penalty competition or anything like that. There are some players shoot more penalties than others, but this is where you have one of the most difficult moments in football because it's so difficult to prepare. Everyone has played a game, they've been in a defensive position, offensive position, whatever. But penalties, when you look at a squad of 23 players and you ask how many of these players take penalties in their clubs, not very many. And how many penalties do you shoot a year? Maybe four or five. And how many of those are absolutely decisive? Maybe one. So this is very difficult to have a plan around about what to do. And what I don't know, or what no one knows, is what our final 11 will look like after 120 minutes. And based on that, we in the coaching team can come up with a plan saying, these five players should take the penalties, and these six on the pitch will get, the penalty number six, seven, eight, nine, whatever. That's what you can do. But you can't do that until you've had the final change, players. It's a fairly complex thing. It's one of the most unpredictable things in football to try to do this, because you need the mental acuity, you need the skill, you need all of that. And like you said, in the World Cup, when Hedvig saved that penalty against Canada, that determined the match. And then our victory in the Olympics, if Hurtig hadn't been on the pitch, we might not have made it to the semi in the Olympics. So many things like that. Sorry, a very long answer to a very unpredictable question, but that's the way it is. Follow up to that then, Peter. Do you enjoy penalty shootouts? Well, it has to be decided somehow, so I don't see any other option. And I've shot a few penalties myself as a player, and I've never been as nervous as that as when I was taking a penalty in a semi-final against Norrköping in the Swedish league. But I almost collapsed on my way to place the position the ball. So you can be nervous. It can be really tough, but you can still score as long as you make it to the ball. Than the penalty spot. But I see no other way of determining a match. Are you less nervous now? Come again? Are you less nervous about penalty shootout as a coach? Well, yeah, I'm not going to take them, so sure. But it's incredibly exciting. And I don't always keep up with the count, I have to say. Sometimes I have to ask, do we win if we make this penalty? It's like BK Häcken in the Swedish league. We played with them, and I had no idea whether if we scored that penalty, we would win the cup, but I didn't know. So who do you ask? Whoever is standing next to me, and I hope they know. It could be Magnus Wickman or Leffe, our Leif, our goalkeeper trainer, goalkeeper coach. And you've built this team very much around Kosovare Asllani since you took over. What has she meant for your side, for your squad? Oh, she's been enormously important. I've said that before sometime. She was one of the first players that we moved. We moved her position. I wanted to have a really skilled number 10 in that position. And Kosovare played a lot on the left wing beforehand, but she was the perfect number 10. And since then, uh, maybe I moved her to her position primarily because of her attacking qualities. But then we've seen that she's just as skilled in the defense, cutting off the opponents and working defensively. And sometimes she's the player that runs most of all. So I didn't really know that at the time, but it turned out that she can do that, and not least that she is an incredible team captain, and somehow she drives herself and many other players in the team with enormous competitive instinct. So it's very important that we built it around her. How do you remember the loss against England in the Euros? Uh, well, first of all, in terms of football, we haven't had taken that into consideration because we were playing with other players, and all I remember is that we had three massive chances to score 1-0, but it was so much. We had COVID in the squad. We had our wing backs. I think Hanna Glass was playing on the left, so we had to reshuffle the squad quite a lot. We had players who didn't even make it to the pitch. We had members of the coaching team who couldn't make it. So that whole Euro was a really boring part in terms of how we lived and how we set it up. So we couldn't even meet one another. We used to sitting 8 or 9 around each table, laughing and talking. And now we have to sit like with a face mask, 2 or 3 around a table, and that really takes away from the from the whole thing. I mostly remember that we had really great place to stay, but it was really dull, everything around it. And the match ended 4-0. So that was a bit of an anticlimax to the whole championship, really. But do you think life outside of the pitch affected the performance in that match? Yeah, like in terms of our players, definitely. We didn't have all players available. And we had some sickness in the match prior to that already. And one thing was away for like 5 or 6 days. Rasmus Liljeblad, who was part of the team, so there's several in the coaching team who were sick, who were isolated. So I think that will, of course, have a huge impact on a squad. I managed, but it will affect you if people around you are sick and not feeling well, and that's something that we didn't experience here. So that's what I remember from that. It was really unfortunate. I've almost managed to suppress it, but I keep getting reminded. Another question then: what do you think of this stadium? Primarily the fact that they've got running lanes around it. Well, I don't really like those lanes. I want those small, intimate um, arenas. My favorites. Now we're going to play against England, but one of my favorite arenas is kind of coaches where Fulham plays. I can just go there just to go there because it's so beautifully located by the Thames. But I have to say, most recently, our supporters made this arena brilliant. I didn't even think about the fact that they were the tracks around the pitch. Other side from that, it took a while to get onto the pitch, but so they kind of the focus was on the supporters rather than the tracks. So that was cool. So, Peter, we're not going to get stuck in what has been, but when we spoke to Hurtig and Magdalena Eriksson yesterday, Hurtig had suppressed or forgotten the match against England in 2022, and Magdalena Eriksson said there were many negative thoughts around it, but that could still be a motivator. So, what do you do in order to not linger on those negative feelings? I know they have lots of matches in between, but the Euros is a Euros. Nothing really. We haven't talked about it. It's not something that we as a squad. I'm sure individuals can have different memories of that match, but you're associated with that. So we haven't had to, you know, me and Magnus, we haven't talked anything about that particular match or what that was like. So you just leave it, and if anything important in terms of football had been important, we might have looked at a video clip or something of it, but maybe we have just suppressed it, and it could be. But if a player thinks about it, they can deal with that themselves. If they wake up at 4:30 a.m. screaming England, Sweden 4-0, sure, but they'll deal with it.